So I decided to open the video this way for two reasons. One was that I realized that in the first video I'd never actually introduced the Zyurangers to the audience. I listed all the Power Rangers by name, but I only ever mentioned Genki, I believe, in the first part. I also wanted to quickly establish that I was more accurately pronouncing the name of the team than I was in the first part, just to make sure that people would be sure of that from very early on. So here we are in part 2, and I should say that one of the problems that, at least in my mind, I don't know if anybody else noticed or had any problem with it, in this series was that, to a certain extent, I wasn't really sure what my focus should or would be at any given point. It's fairly focused here in this individual video that I'm basically explaining what happens in the plot of Zyurangers and then saying what happened in the corresponding scenes in Power Rangers. I wasn't really sure exactly how this would be, what the reception to this would be, because there's basically a lot of plot summary going on, and I didn't know if people really wanted to tune in just to listen to plot summary. In this case, it seemed like it was necessary because the stories to the two series correspond so much that in order to really understand how Power Rangers was made, I really felt I needed to really just lay out in detail how the original series did it. Obviously, in the later parts, I almost do a complete 180 and barely even mention the plot to the Sentai series just because it's so irrelevant to what's going on in Power Rangers. But I'll get to more of that when I get to those videos.
Unfortunately, he loses. Also, unfortunately, Daijujin then commands Genki to kill Burai to bring justice to those Burai killed in his
So this was something that I found kind of funny in this series, is that Burai killed all these people, and Daijujin's basically, whatever, you can become a good guy now, there's no repercussions for you. Although I suppose there is the repercussion that he's going to die eventually. But it's also pretty stupid that he just doesn't tell anybody that he has this, oh, by the way, I have this candle thing, I have to stay in this room, and that's why I mysteriously disappear every time we have a battle. It just seems slightly, forced drama that he's like, oh, I'm going to disappear now, and you can't know why. It doesn't seem very intelligent. And isn't it just really funny how easily he's able to find this kid? I guess it's just, you sort of accept these kind of things that all, in Power Rangers, all the bad things happen in Angel Grove, and I guess in Sentai series, all the bad things happen in this very localized area of Japan, I guess we're supposed to believe. But yeah, I do admit this is definitely one of my favorite parts of this series. There are only a couple of episodes that I actually kept in my files to watch repeatedly, and Burai's death scene is definitely one of the highlights, I think, of the series. But yeah, I was quite surprised to watch this and see that they could just not have two of their members of the team and still be able to, bring all the Guardian Beasts together. And I know at least one person commented on, that I said later on that there wasn't any, that it made more sense in Power Rangers. They had to have all the Zords together to combine them in order to do that. And I believe he said that, rationalized that since the Guardian Beasts are actually living beings in Zyuranger, that it makes sense that they'd be able to act independently. But to that, I think, well, if they can just act independently, why do they even need pilots in the first place? Why do they even need to have Zyurangers at all? Just bring in the Guardian Beasts and let them do all the work. So it does seem there to imply that there is some sort of connection, especially in the episode following Burai's death, where Dragon Caesar just sort of wandering around aimlessly and really depressed. He no longer has this bond to his pilot anymore, so it does seem like there is some sort of connection between the Guardian Beast and the Zyuranger. So that's what I used to say. It is kind of weird that they don't need them to be there at all. And this, I don't know why I've been bringing this up, but this is sort of the one area I sort of disagreed with Linkara on for his history of Power Rangers, that this was really amazing, because I mean, it definitely was. As a kid, I'd never seen anything that would split up into 5 parts, a 5-part story. That was definitely amazing. But just watching it as an adult, and especially with the knowledge of what happened in the original series, that where you can see they didn't have these plot elements anymore, it does seem really kind of padded, where you just have, you know, these fights with putties that they happen and the putties go away, and they have fights with the bad guys and they just go away, and there really isn't any point to it.
Contrived coincidences. Tommy forgets something and runs off. He loses his communicator. He's captured by putties who steal his Morphin. He's knocked out in the first act and has to recover in the command center.
All that said, I really have to thank Linkara quite a bit for this, and I think I do in the credits of the last part of this, but I probably could go as far as saying that maybe a third of all the Power Ranger images that I use in this series of videos were probably taken from his History of Power Rangers videos. I always say, and always ask people to tell me not to let me do television show reviews again, and I always end up doing it anyway. You know, I just got done doing the DS9 bottom 10 thing, but and I had to find and convert 33 episodes of DS9, about 6 episodes of TNG, an episode of the original series, and then part of a movie. It's difficult having to use source that many different pieces of material. When you're just reviewing a movie, you just have the movie and maybe a couple other things if you want to throw in some references to something else. Doing a TV series is just a lot of footage to get. So the History of Power Rangers, just having a lot of those, a lot of that work already done for me. There were still plenty of episodes of Power Rangers I had to find and get on my own, and probably for sure the majority of it, just because, our video series focus on 2 different aspects, so obviously he's not going to necessarily have the same footage that I need for points I'm trying to make, but it definitely helped lighten my load quite a bit. But yeah, I loved the Green Candle stuff. That, again, as I said in the video, that's one of the first episodes I ever saw, which in a way is kind of disappointing because I just got into there and there was this Green Ranger, and then as soon as I start watching, he's gone. But I've always, even as a little kid, I really enjoyed watching stories that had the characters get into really dark, dangerous situations. And I'd never really seen anything at that point where the characters win, but they still end up losing something. Tommy doesn't get to keep his powers. Jason doesn't manage to get the Green Candle back. They fail, and there are repercussions to their actions, and I thought that was really amazing, and I'd never seen anything like that before, so that probably is what got me hooked on the show. Oh, and I loved, I mentioned it, but I didn't really get to use any audio. I really wanted to use audio clips of that, but the Bondora song that she and her minions always dance to. Oh, and the thing with the dinosaurs, that just was so ridiculous. Why would you introduce dinosaurs into a populated modern area? That's just asking for trouble. But yeah, Bondora's song it was so crazy, so silly. I'm not surprised they didn't bring in any of those elements for Power Rangers, because it is just goofy and silly, but I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. Now, I believe somebody told me that this was originally written to be a finale in the true sense that Rita really was defeated and this was going to be the end. And given what we find out, or what I speculate in the next video, that probably is the case. There are some speculations in here, so don't take everything I say for gospel. It's like the thing about viewers being able to vote on whether Bride died or not. That I don't have any strong confirmation on that, so just take everything like that with a grain of salt. Same with this. Somebody told me that really was intended to be the finale, but by the time they aired it, they decided to keep on extending the series, so they sort of hastily rewrote it to make it sound like it really wasn't the end, but it kind of was, and you could keep on going. So I heard that from at least one person. It could be true, might not be true, I don't know, just throwing that out there because it's what I've heard. It's kind of hard to find, any kind of real definitive, authoritative information on this subject. It is a lot of fan speculation, and so as you'll see in the last video, there is at least one piece of speculation that I made that has later come to light I know that I'm wrong about, and I'll get to that when the time comes. There is a lot of guesswork involved, and there's a lot of educated guessing, and I try to make that as clear as possible whenever that happens. The Zyu 2 stuff, the second part of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, I was, of course, really excited when that came out when I was a kid, and it did sort of change things. You can see Billy, he's not wearing the overalls anymore. That's sort of his first step to sort of toning down that socially awkward, nerdy persona he had at the beginning of the series into the more, I guess you could say, macho buff thing he had going on in Season 3 and then in Power Rangers Zeo. But it didn't seem quite as strong as the first season, or the original first season.
It did contain an underwater fight.
It was interesting. It just seemed slightly watered down. Like, it didn't. Maybe it was a lack of Sentai footage, or as much Sentai footage made it seem just not quite as epic. But it definitely was cool having Tommy come back, although it did sort of diminish the whole green candle thing.
Taking storylines in their own direction, for better or worse. They also began filming a bit more of their own.
But it was nice that there were consequences, that he did come back with temporary powers, and it actually was followed up on. You've seen a lot of series, children's series like this, where they'll have sort of retcon, or not, well, it's not really a retcon, but just sort of contradicting what they said before, or finding a new way to have that happen, where somebody will be taken out of the story for some reason, then brought back, and then they'll just not have any consequences for that. It'll say, oh, well, it's just a temporary fix, and then never really address that again, because they expect you to sort of forget about that. But so I was glad in Power Rangers that when Tommy did get his powers back, they really did eventually follow up on the temporary power thing, and have that actually pay off in some way. Well, I have gone over on the video now, so I guess I should probably stop here. So I'm gonna stop here, and you'll see me again on the next commentary track. All right, bye.